Hello, Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today we start Unit 30, Types of Social Movements. It is desirable that before we initiate the discussion on the types of movements or try to develop a typology of movements, some preliminary explanation about its conceptual background need to be presented. Social movements are a form of collective action. Collective action refers to the movement mobilization of a group of people putting their efforts, including struggles and strives, to achieve certain collectively shared goals or values held as important for society. It may be realized that collective actions can be consensual and cooperative without any element of conflict. One can visualize the cooperative efforts of a group of people to make a ceremonial or festival occasion a grand success. These are examples of consensual and non-conflictual collective actions. In the study of social movements, it is important to note that we deal only with conflictual collective actions. Niels Messler refers to them as uninstitutionalized mobilization for action. The conflictual uninstitutionalized collective actions can be of various types. They may range from an episodic, short-lived, leaderless, and unorganized collective outburst of, sometimes of violent nature, of an unexpected gathering of a wayside crowd, to a systematically organized with some degree of understandable structure, with leadership and communication struggling for or against certain social and cultural practices, or to achieve certain set of goals and objectives held important for the community or society. We need to remember that while all social movements carry some elements of conflict in them, not all forms of conflictual collective actions can be treated as a social movement. In social science, different forms of conflictual collective actions carry specific conceptual meaning. Collective actions such as riot, rebellion, revolt, and revolution carry conflict contents, including the element of violence in them. Readers are advised to gain conceptual clarity about these different types of collective action from the relevant literature on the subject. Conflicts, as readers can understand, stands out as central element laying at the core of non-institutionalized, non-consensual, and conflictual collective action. And these forms of collective action also include the conception of social movements. A brief analytical discussion on the nature and forms of social conflict therefore becomes essential. Now let us move to the next point, nature of social conflict. Social conflict is essentially an interactional concept. It presupposes the existence of two or more individuals or groups, castes, communities, and classes in a situation of opposing claims and contestation about some issues, goals, and objectives. As an adversarial concept, conflict always involves the elements of struggle, strife, and active efforts of one group to exclude or cancel the claim of another group over some values, object, or goals. Conflicts vary from a mild disapproval to a brutal physical assault and killing. At this stage, few points need to be emphasized. First, the mere existence of conflict do not presuppose the existence of collective action. And all forms of collective actions do not involve conflict. Secondly, norm-oriented institutionalized collective actions such as efforts of the collectivity to make a festive occasion a success or instances of the collective celebration of ceremony or performance of a ritual are devoid of conflict content. As one can easily make out in the study of non-institutionalized conflictual collective action, one has to exclude personalized types of conflicts such as one often witnesses in his everyday life between parent and child and husband and wife, or differences and conflict between the neighbors. Personalized conflict do not belong to our field of study, but an outburst of spontaneous or organized protest and violence of one group against the other or against some institution and social practice do. A slogan shouting collectively of people marching in protest against the exploitation or against the use of unjust power by a caste, class, gender, or institutional authority characterized the nature of collective conflict. Some examples such as cases of peasant uprising against the erstwhile class of zamindars in the countryside for the ownership and control over land, or the sit-in, dharna, protest and strike in the industry by the workers for the demand of increase in wage, bonus and better work conditions, including the demand for the share in the decision-making process against the capitalist, can be easily cited. Further, like the above two examples, the case of farmers' strikes against the state for the demand of cheaper cost of electricity and chemical manure, or for the sale of their agricultural produces such as grain and vegetables, can also be presented as an examples of collective conflict in the society. Conflicts also manifest when one group of people, in order to gain and retain an exclusive possession of values and objects, try to cancel out the chances or opportunities of another group in achieving the same values and objectives. The act of one group is expel and exclude another group from the social values against their wishes always tend to involve conflict. Louis Kozer rightly defined conflict as a struggle in which the aim is to gain objectives and simultaneously neutralize, injure, or eliminate rivals. Conflicts is always an adversarial concept involving tussle and tension between at least two groups of people in opposite to each other. Social conflicts are not homogeneous phenomena. They tend to fall into the different categories and types and assume different forms. Since conflicts lie at the core of the conflictual collective action and their typologies, as we shall see below, they sometimes tend to correspond to the typologies of social movements. It is appropriate that a brief discussion on the typology of social conflicts be presented before we discuss the typology of social movement. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.